Handling of final paychecks and unpaid compensation. Upon the death of an employee, employer's responsibilities. Losing an employee is a painful, emotional experience for an organization. Apart from mourning and caring for the bereaved family, there are legal responsibilities on the part of an employer concerning final wages and unpaid compensation. Knowing these obligations is essential to knowing how to treat both the employer and the employee's loved ones equitably and fairly. Legal framework. There are bound to be a large number of federal and state laws for the final paychecks and unpaid compensation. These are subject to laws of a specific jurisdiction and the surrounding conditions pertaining in case of death. This is very important for any employer to be acquainted with federal laws relating to final paychecks and state laws related to unpaid compensation. Moreover, some employers must be aware that there are specific industries which are governed by particular laws, or a collective bargaining agreement that can have more stringent provisions on final wages and unpaid compensation under an employee's death. In these laws, there may be severance pay to the account of the dead employee, pension benefits, or other posthumous compensation that are given. Final paychecks under federal laws. By federal law, the employee will generally be entitled to compensation for services rendered to the satisfaction of the employer up to the date of death. This compensation would generally include both wages and salaries, earned vacation or sick leave not yet taken, and general compensation for other services rendered at the benefit of and to the satisfaction of the employer. However, the actual rights at issue are held to depend largely on the nature of the individual's employment and the terms of the agreement or contract governing the employment. Employers should pay close attention to and see to it that the requirements of final paychecks are complied with under the Fair Labor Standards Act, FLSA, and Family and Medical Leave Act, FMLA, of the federal government. These legislations recognize, too, the right of employees to be compensated for services rendered to their employers and the benefits that the employees and their loved ones can avail themselves of in case the employees fall into unfortunate situations such as death. State laws on unpaid compensation. Aside from the federal laws on unpaid compensation due upon the death of an employee, there are state laws that need to be adhered to. These laws address issues such as when the final paycheck is due and other benefits or compensation that the employee may have been entitled to, which would fall to his or her beneficiaries or estate upon death. Or, in complex cases, consulting with a probate lawyer can ensure compliance with both state and federal laws. Employers must, therefore, be aware that state laws on final paychecks and unpaid compensation differ widely. Some states may have certain requirements for vacation time, accrued but unused, or bonuses which the deceased employee had earned. Others may require employers to give more extensive notice or other documentation to the employee's family or legal representatives. When an employee dies, there are things an employer must do straight away and things they need to do over a longer period. Immediate actions to be taken. On being notified of the death of an employee, it is important to inform other employees sensitively and assure them relevant support will be provided. This must be done in a compassionate and caring manner, as this is a very traumatic time. Long-term obligations. After the first shock has passed over, the employers still have the onus on them to continue supporting the office place for the dead employee. This would mean ensuring that the final paychecks, employee due benefits, and unpaid bonuses or commissions be followed through and paid to the deceased employee. The employers should also be in a position to offer any legal and financial support, information, and access to the deceased employee's family. Final paychecks amount due to the deceased employee and the final paycheck may be a complex calculation. It is, therefore, recommended that the employer maintain accurate records of all working hours by the employee, unpaid leaves, or other relevant matters impacting the final paycheck to the employee concerned. It should be an accounting and human resource task that the amount an employer owes to an employee who has died while in his employ includes wages, salary, unused vacation time, or sick leave due, and any other kind of benefits that are owed to the worker. No wonder employers must refer back to federal and state law and to the contract of employment or collective bargaining agreement so as to ensure that accuracy can be attained. Payroll considerations. Employers should also closely collaborate with their payroll department so that their calculations are correct and timely arrangements are made for the last payout. Corrective measures should be taken to adjust the employee's final paycheck according to taxes, deductions, and other payroll factors. Unreimbursed payroll. Besides the final paychecks, the employer may still need to address other unpaid compensation to the deceased employee. Benefits may be outstanding and would require identification for appropriate payment. There could exist bonuses or commissions that have not been paid. Addressing these claims, as well as any other money matter outstanding, would come in this aspect defining. Employers must examine the deceased employee's employment records, benefit plans, or any other documentation that could indicate payment of any due benefits. This may relate to his health cover, retirement schemes, or any other workplace benefit he was entitled to. Dues about not paid commissions and bonuses. If they had shadow bonuses or commissions that had not been paid before death, employees need to work with either the employee's legal heirs or the estate to ensure that these payments are properly made. Inclusively, this could include calculating and prorating the amount due based on the term of service of the decedent and their employment agreement. Talking to the family of the dead employee. There needs to be proper and sensitive communication from the employer to the family of the fallen employee. The employers should also communicate subtly, availing any information needed by them, while at the same time guarding their privacy. Confidentiality. Mind the emotional state and concerns of the family of the late employee. The employer needs to assume an empathetic stance and be understanding to assert to the families that he or she is available to stand by and help them at this difficult period. Confidentiality should be ensured regarding all personal and financial information that the family shares. All legal and financial information on record with relation to the employment of the employee, like contracts, employment agreements, documents on benefit plan, and so forth, should be prepared for sharing with the family of the deceased. Employers might also need to take this as an opportunity to pick up the problem themselves and guide the family members through legal processes, or even filling out the paperwork. This, therefore, implies that the pledging of final paychecks, as well as other unpaid compensation upon the event of death, is a sensitive and legally complex matter for any employer. It is through understanding the legal framework, fulfilling immediate and long-term obligations, accurately processing the final paycheck, addressing unpaid compensation, and communicating sensitively with the deceased employee's family that employers can fulfill their obligations in as compassionate and responsible a way as possible.